Welcome to the video instructions for OwlMtModels F-50-Series flat car. This video will supplement but not replace the written instructions with additional step-by-step guidance and help show techniques for assembling this model. We hope you find it helpful.
Okay, so the first step here is to go in and start de-spruing the deck. And I'm using flush cutting pliers here. Okay, cut. The B end of the deck is noted on the bottom with our company name, OwlMtModels, and on the top you'll be able to see the brake ratchet assembly here. This is the underframe shot for the F-50-5 through 12 series underframes. So here we have the two underframe center sills, the reservoir for the AB brake, the detail for the AB brake that comes from there over to there, the top pieces of the bolster, here's the main pieces of the bolster here, the coupler box lids, and the end sills. The end sill for the B end is the inner one here. Finally, up in the corner here is the bending jig to be able to bend the grab irons for the side of the car and end. The next step here is to drill out the back side of the end sills where the grab iron holes are. These are cored, so mostly all that needs to happen is you just run the drill through real quickly, and you can see here it's just a few strokes and the holes pop out. Also at this point you may wish to drill out the cut lever hole, which is what I'm doing now. There it is. And this hole here is for the train line in case you want to use high-tech details or another brand of train line. The hole on the right side, or I should say when you're facing the car, the left side of the end, is just above and outside of the pulling pocket, and they're actually lapped into the notch on the inside or the back side of the end sill, so these are easier to drill from the outside. Here we're using a number 78 drill bit to drill out the side grab iron holes in the sides of the car. All of the shots we're working on right now are actually styrene test shots because they're in gray, which is much better right now to photograph with the video. The ABS parts drill much easier than these actually do. Here there's a little bit of flash over one of the stirrup step holes. So the way I drill those out is I come in from behind and more or less just press on the back of this while doing the drilling, and these holes clean up in a matter of just a couple of seconds each. Right now this is number 72 drill, so it shouldn't be any problem. And the other hole that I will drill out at the same time are the two roping staple holes, which are here just above the bolster. I think I'm actually putting holes in our white backing. The other piece to notice at this point are these square holes. These key into the bolster, and there's tabs on the bolster that will key into this in a few steps. One thing to note on the sides is on the back there's an A mark here and here. That delineates the A end of the car, which will be mated up to the plain end of the underside of the deck when it comes to assembling it. This is the detail and brake sprue. Over here we have the K-brake and its brake rod going all the way down to the handbrake stirrup. And here's the brake cylinder for the AB system. Same thing going all the way down. This is a small part to move the ratchet and pawl onto the deck for an earlier version. The car is designed as the late version by default, so you can modify it to an earlier version with this. Here is the B end brake lever, the A end brake lever, the brake cylinder mounting pad, the AB valve, triple valve here with holes in the back in case you want to rig that up with proper plumbing. This here is one of the cross beams with a stirrup which these brake rods run through. This is the AB valve cross member which will mount here into here. This is for the extra mount for the K-brake. So this pad supports the back of the the K-brake over here. The remaining pieces here are all cross members that are all interchangeable, and there should be a couple of extra pieces. Now that I've de-sprued the side sills, I'm going to go ahead and work down the bottom here with a file, knock down the injection sprues, and there's also a very slight notch here where the roping staple goes, so I'm going to make sure that that's slightly cleaned out. It's a little bit of relief. This shouldn't take too long. It's a little bit more tricky because of how the camera is here. I also usually do the top, as there are some injection gates on the top of the car side as well. The next step is to come in and cut out the bolster. So I'm doing this quickly with my sprue nippers. That part should drop out. And the other part to get out at this point is the bolster cover. Or top. This is actually the bottom of the bolster in the bottom web. That should. The other option here is to go ahead and cut through the outer sprue of the runner of the part. There we go. So now we have these two parts. These will be assembled like this, and basically they'll press together. The next step after cutting these off of the sprue is to simply go along the sides and clean up any mold flash. This shouldn't be very much. There's some draft angle of about 5 degrees on this mold, so this is pretty easy to do. Most of this will actually be hidden when the model's finished, so this is mostly however much you want to do to make yourself feel happy that you knew that you did it. One other thing to note about the top of the bolster piece here of the draft gear is these are stake pockets that actually come through from the deck, and you can actually mount a stake pocket into there, or a stake into the pockets if you want to when the car's finished. So now we're going to do the cover plate here. This should be, let's see if I can get a good angle here for the camera. This should be pretty easy. These parts do not actually go all the way out to the side sill. This flange stops a few inches short of where the side sill of the car will be. And on the coupler box end and the main center sill end. There we go. Okay, now that the parts have been cleaned up, we should be able to come in here and with a very easy press these parts together. They'll fit pretty tightly as is. The next step will be to get your favorite liquid plastic cement. I'm using Tamiya brand, and we will get the brush out here and put the glue on the joint. The capillary action will flow the glue into the joint and start welding the parts together. I'm going to put a little bit in here, and then the next step is press these together, and I will do this with quite a bit of force because we will be tapping these holes with a 256 tap, and I want these to be welded firmly together. This shouldn't take too long. Check the other side there. That joint looks really good. To note also here is these very small tabs. These are not flash. This is actually the small key that will key the bolster into the side sills in the next couple of steps when we start assembling the whole car. That looks like that's welded that pretty well together. Next here is the drilling out the bolsters. This is just more or less a formality. These should be cast pretty close to tap drill size. I'm more or less just doing this as a formality. Here's the bolster that I just glued. Looks like it's taking a little bit more. There it comes. And there we go. Now we're ready with the 256 tap, and this is pretty easy to tap through the plastic. Do a chip break every 3 or 4 turns. On the bolster, you may wish to not tap all the way through, because that will keep the screw nice and tight so you don't have your bolster screw falling out and your car is running around a train layout. Make sure to get the chips off of the tap before you go do the next hole. Do this to both bolsters and draft gear holes. After tapping, there's a small amount of plastic on the top side of these holes which will be a mating surface. So I'm going to very lightly sand this just to knock those high pieces off. Alright, most of this has been prep work, but now we get to start assembly. The bolster and draft gear piece has a pocket here which mates to the boss on the underframe, and there's also a small rib right here that keys down into the center sill notch here. The bolster pieces also will help you align into these notches in the floor stringers. So more or less these parts should click in like that, and there's only about 5/1000 of free play in there. And now I'm opening up my bottle of glue, and I'm going to come in and flow the glue around the sides of the coupler box, and let's see if I can get a good view for the camera here. Down the sides there. Once that's done, press it down, make sure that that weld holds. That was the A end of the car. This is the B end, which has the company name on it. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm being a little bit liberal with the glue, but this is the parts of the car that you do not want to have come apart in the next 40 or 50 years or ever. There. You can see a slight amount of plastic actually squeezing out from the joints as I'm pressing, which means it's going to be a good weld. Okay, our next step is to cut out the end sills for the car. This is the B end sill, which has the brake mechanism socket here. The A end does not have that. And to make this easier and less likely to distort these styrene parts, I'm going to actually remove the entire section of sprue here, and I'll just cut this off over here someplace. And I'll make a cut there and there. And that actually separated the whole chunk of sprue for me. And I'll come in here and clean that off. These parts are rather fragile right above where the coupler will go, right here. And I don't really want to bend the part any more than is necessary. So, since we're not using these parts of the sprue anymore, I can make the sprue go away. And those will go in the trash can. Okay, now that these parts are separated, we'll get our file and do a couple of quick passes along the top like this. Make that nice and smooth. Oop, there's some detail stuff inside here around the coupler opening. I don't want to hit that, so I'm going to move out and clean up the outer parts here. There we go. That mostly is just de-spruing and cleaning up work. Shouldn't be too hard to do if you're not trying to film it, that is. Now that the parts are cleaned up, I can still see the sprue marks a little bit, but it's mostly just a stress mark and not actually there. And the parts are all cleaned up and ready to go now. Okay, the next step will be putting the sides and ends on. These small tabs right here, they're not very big, but those are locating tabs, and they will go into the square notches here in the side sills. So with that boss right there, that will fit right into this piece here as the two parts come together. Before we glue the sides on, I just noticed that I didn't do a very good job cleaning up these sprue nubs along the side of the deck here, so I'm going to take my file and gently clean those up. There's also a little bit of flashing on the side of the deck between the boards. You might think at first that this car has some misalignment in the mold, but actually this is designed to replicate the step in those deck boards. I'm going to get a little bit of sandpaper and clean up the side. Okay, to make things a little bit easier for myself here, so this is the B end. We can see the OwlMtModels mark here. I'm going to go ahead and put a B on this end of the car and an A on this end of the car. So now we can all agree which end of the model we're looking at any point in time here, from now on. Okay, so trying to see if we can see it in the light here. There's an A mark right here on this car side, so that will go over here, and that will key in on both ends, and I can feel it. You can feel it lock definitely on this end. So I'm going to hold that and run some glue down the back side. That more or less will tack that. I'm going to come over to this end, same thing, put a small amount of glue in. Probably should be mentioned also that these, if the draft angle's been removed on these side sills, there might still be a small gap when you glue it to the deck. That's actually supposed to be there. The prototype cars actually had about a 1/4 inch gap between the top of the deck block here and the bottom of the deck boards. So that's actually not a problem. So there's that. Okay, we'll now work on the other side sill here. So once again, there's a very small A mark there that I can see. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. So we will key that in here, and the other end. Sometimes these keyways are very tight, and you might have a little bit of trouble getting it to actually snap over the keyway. The ABS model shouldn't have any problem with this. These styrene test shots that I'm working with right now are a bit softer. Here's the B end sill, again with the mechanism attachment point here, and I'm gonna press this into the end sill here. This has only been a few seconds since I put the second side on, and I actually do want to have all of these on the car while they're wet, and that will allow me to do any final adjustments in the fit. And hopefully the camera can pick this up. I'm pressing the end sill into the rest of the car, and now I'm pressing the sides in also. This should get these joints here at the corner to be very tight. They are very tight to begin with. It doesn't take a lot of glue to get these to set in. And now the A end is going to go in, and as you can see, it's just resting there, or it was just resting there until I had to recenter it on for the camera. And we'll put a small drop of glue there and a little bit there. That should yeah, that'll start holding it. And now we'll hit it with the rest of the glue here. And a bit up into the corner, a little bit across the raft gear. And now again, I'm going to press the end of the car in, and I can actually see the glue and a little bit of plastic squirting out from the joints that show me that that is actually welding up very nicely. So now, here's the whole car with the sides on. I was also flowing a little bit of glue onto the sides. Hopefully the sides will stay straight. You don't want to have them bowing. It's kind of hard to see with a camera there, I think, but the sides should be pretty straight right now. So now we're going to be drilling the hole for the brake staff. Normally I would do this over the edge of my workbench so that the parts here, the bolster, are not getting squished and the whole deck isn't getting torqued. So in this case I'm going to use a rubber eraser as my backing support for the deck so I don't bend anything. And I'm using a number 73 drill bit to make the hole. We're doing this now, earlier, before the rest of the detail parts are installed, because later there will be a part at the bottom of this hole in the way, and if we drilled into that, that would be a problem. I stopped for a second to check the hole depth. This needs to be around a 1/16 of an inch, and there I just felt it break through. When it breaks through, it should be coming out right inside this pocket here. And I'm actually going to grab something and clean that out from the flashing, because there will be another part going right on top of that. There we go. Warning, this kit contains lead, and in California that may cause cancer. I'm going to go ahead and wear some surgical rubber gloves here, just to be safe. Normally I just make sure I don't touch anything and wash up after I'm done. So inside this packet in our kits is our lead weights. And now that we have it out of the package here, you'll notice that there are 2 thin ones out here on the outside and 2 thicker ones in the middle. If you really don't want to handle the lead too much, just fold over the thin ones, and that basically gives you the weight as it needs to go in the car. If you don't mind touching the lead a little bit more and getting things a little bit more squared up, you can peel the tape off and get ready to glue it.
The design change of including weight covers occurred after this video was shot using pre-production gray models. The next clip shows the use of brown production parts. Please note that I'm not wearing protective gloves in this clip, but will exercise proper cleanup procedures immediately after handling the lead alloys.
Alright, so we're back, and here's the weights that come in the kit. This is 4 weights, and they're taped together, and all I'm doing is simply folding them together like this, and they will go up inside the car here. Now remember, this is lead weight, so should be doing precautionary things dealing with the lead. I'm going to be washing my hands as soon as I'm done with this, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the lead weights inside the car, and I've pre-cut a couple of pieces of the 20 thou by 100 thou styrene strip, and you don't have to do this. This just guarantees that the weight's going to be centered inside the car body. And I'm going to press that all the way down like that, and the weight is actually pretty snug now. And we'll get the glue. I'm going to flow the glue in along the side here. This is going to weld the plastic in place to the side sill pretty well. And then this is the weight cover. And the weight cover will go over the top here. And this is a little bit tricky to do with a camera in the way. Should be about there. I'm probably not going to do the weight cover just yet until I have the underframe ready to go, and we'll do that next. Alright, and we're back. Here's the underframe. I'm using a straight edge razor to cut all the sprues. Set the sprue back aside. Now the underframes have a mark on them here, which is a B. I'm going to see if I can get there it is, the reflection to work for me. And the B indicates the B end of the car, which is the same end as the OwlMtModels logo is. So these are basically backwards in here. And the frame should fit in here. If the frame's at all tight and not wanting to sit down, make sure that the frame's not too long to fit between the bolsters. And this one's wanting to slightly bow. So I'm going to get my trusty file out here and get my hand all across in the way here. And I'm going to take a few strokes. Doesn't take much. Could be a little bit of flash or whatever. Couple of quick strokes on each of these sprue gates just to make sure that they're down flush. The razor blade should make a pretty good cut. Okay. Do the other one real quick here. There can also be a little bit of flash down the side of the car there, the side of the center sill. So sometimes it helps to clean that a little bit also. These castings are pretty good. I'm checking the inside here to see if there's anything there that I need to clean up. I don't think so. So again, the B end. This is going to go into the slots. Push the weight cover out of the way. Now when I'm doing this, I'm going to have the center sill right up against the blocks at the bolsters here. There we go. And I'm going to hit this with the glue. Make sure I got these ends of the sill cleaned up, which I do. Now when this is in here properly, the little connecting pieces should be touching. So, like that. I'm pressing together slightly at the ends here where it joins the bolsters. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to go in and see about touching these little studs. And then carefully. Part of the trick here is not to have them lap over each other. Just want to press them together gently. That looks pretty good. Now one thing I can do at this step is once I let this dry, that'll secure it to the sills to the underframe. Then I can come back through, put a little bit more glue on here, press these together gently and set them into my vise. And just let the sills stay together like this. Or maybe that'll be enough to let the glue get tacky and stay glued together.
This concludes part 1 of our video instructions. In part 2, we'll be looking at the brake systems and underbody detailing. Don't forget to check the website for additional roster information and techniques for weathering the decks. Please check back regularly with us for updates on upcoming projects. including the new modular lumber load kits and Blackburn Sugar Beet rack add-on kits for Southern Pacific F-50 series flat cars. Feel free to contact us by phone or email with any questions regarding our models.